Welcome and good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome and good morning. I'm Josh Coyote, today's worship associate. Today is our December 22nd, 2024 in-person online service. So welcome this morning, this day, and this opportunity to be together in community. Some announcements. If you have a joy or concern, there's a basket in the back and slips of paper to write it down or put it in the chat box if you're online. Family game night will be this Friday, December 27th at 6 p.m. downstairs in Fellowship Hall. Bill Cohn and I will bring some games and some pizza, but feel free to bring your own food and games if you wish to play and join us. Any other announcements? Okay. So, I believe that leads, it's community greeting time. So get up and greet your neighbors.
Good morning. How's it going? I'm doing fine. How are you? Good.
He lets the kids out once a year, so good morning.
How are you doing?
Who else would have had this girl except me, right? Maybe not.
Yeah, well, it's on YouTube.
And do you know?
On YouTube channel.
So is this a program?
Not very helpful.
Well, this software is actually free. It's called OBS Studio. And then they bought a couple of cameras.
I don't know.
Set us up on YouTube, so we stream on YouTube.
So if I wanted to put something on YouTube, I should buy this contract.
I'm not the one who did it. Daniel. I don't know anything about YouTube. I just sit here and control it. Oh, yeah, sure. I don't have the equipment myself, but I know that I can yeah. That's all right.
It looks like a good program.
It's got its issues, but it's, it was designed by computer people and not video people. So
I mean, it's
insert
a text.
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah. You can do all the basic kind of production you think of as far as putting together programs. And you can get free editing software too, so you can record segments and then edit things. There's a number of free video editing.
But is this one?
This is not a mannequin. No, this is just no. This is basically what they call a switcher. Just controls what the program is. So we've got various inputs, and then we can pick one as an output.
As I bring the peaceful, free times, take deep breaths and relax so we can move into worship. For this moment in time, let go of your anxieties, fears, and worries. Be in this moment. We will now read our church covenant. We will put it in the order of service, so if you would like to, feel free to read it along with us.
Love is the spirit of this community, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
We will now be lighting our chalice. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and need. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our call to worship this morning is the poem "The Solstice Teaches Us" by David Breeden. The solstice teach us that darkness comes, that darkness goes. The solstice teach us that light comes, that light goes. The solstice teach us calmly, silently, to be calm, silent, learning. The solstice teach us, as we circle the sun, that everything flies. The solstice teach us to remember the dark, to remember the light, to remember time, the seasons, and love as we circle the sun. I invite you now to join in constructing our winter solstice altar. And in a moment I'll ask you if you want to come up. You're welcome to just place your object on the altar, or you can tell us something about why that object's important to you and reminds you of the winter solstice and the winter season. It's up to you. If you want to do that, there's no obligation. And I'll start by just talking about the bison, which was my contribution this morning. Marty and I picked that up over in Colorado a few years ago, and to me the bison is a symbol of resilience in winter, because you always see these images and videos of bison in blizzards in Yellowstone, and they're just calmly doing their thing, covered in snow. You know, the heck with the weather. It doesn't bother them. They'll, dig through the snow to find something to eat and endure the harsh temperatures at Yellowstone. So I've always felt like the bison's a great symbol of winter resilience, and I think we can all use some resilience, especially going into January. So that was my contribution this morning. So I invite anyone who'd like to come up next.
That's my candle. It's the best I could do. But it's long. This stands for long midnight. And I love solstice. And
you want to speak at the mic so that
Yeah,
you know?
Oh. Okay, I've always liked solstice anyway, and I used to like Marilyn to go to her house for solstice for a celebration. As some of you remember, that was a really good time. Anyway, I like to put it on something on my hearth, I guess, on the fireplace, but I couldn't think of anything except a candle, and it's in an old holder, and I think it's a good night to think about what you're doing in this new year to make it better than we were afraid we were getting. But anyway, I like solstice. That's me. I don't know what I'm saying.
I'm Tammy Thatcher. I brought a picture of a chickadee. Chickadees stay here year-round, so they're not migrating through like some of the other finches. They winter in Idaho. And I feed birds, and the chickadees talk to me, and usually they say, "Did you know the feeder was empty?"
That's cool.
I just brought a little scrap of some really nice yarn. It's very nice yarn. Let me just
Lift the mic up so we can hear you.
Okay. So this little scrap of yarn, it to me symbolizes just increasing my skills and getting better at things that are important to me.
Well, I had fun with this idea because, as you know, I'm enjoying my Scandinavian dancing, and I have a lot of Scandinavian friends, and so I wanted to tell you a little bit about why I'm wearing what I am. This is the Sami hat, which you might recognize that the women up north wear, and this sweater I'm wearing is the Telemark style, and you can see these embroidered trim, which shows circles of red and green whirling. It's an ancient pattern that is hand-stitched over a woven braid that's added to a sweater or jackets. And underneath that, I'm wearing the solja, and solja means sun. And if you can see, there's a neck pin and another pin, and this is how they would hold their shirts together, both men and women. And the Norwegian people weren't wealthy, but before Christianity, when they did mine silver or trade for it, they would often make a piece of jewelry, rather not keeping it in their house, because that wasn't locked. Houses were always unlocked, so wayfarers needed respite from travel. They could enter a mountain house or whatever over the pass. And these were made for children and put in their bed as soon as they were born, or given to women after they were engaged and before they were married. This is before Christian times, excuse me, when they thought that things might be a little unsettled. And as they, and as they got more, they would make these dangles, which they called spoons. And what's interesting about the spoons is that they have a cup to them, and it faces out. And this shows that they recognize the solja, the sun, as bringing energy and light and change. And they felt like they had that power when they had this around them, and they wanted to reflect that positive growth and change out. And so even after the Christian era, the Norwegians and also the Swedish and other Nordic nations wear soljas, and each one is designed regionally. So if you see someone wearing one, you'll know what part of Norway they're from, or their grandmother was, because the granddaughters inherit the grandmothers. And so this is a very, I think, a very solstice kind of thing, trying to share the light, and that's very important even in this day in Norway. And they have a Santa Lucia Day, which was on the December 13th, celebrating light, and this woman who came with food and clothing to this stranded village, and that's celebrated in Sweden especially. So if you have any questions, I'll be wearing it. I won't be leaving it on the table.
I'm Victoria, and I brought a stick. The stick represents the solstice fires. That when I lived in Alaska, we would have magnificent fires, and they brought the light back. But all over the world, especially the Northern Hemisphere, people are burning fires either in their fireplace or gathering because it's solstice. And I heard the recordings of people at Stonehenge when 8:09 the sun peeped up, and it's here, solstice.
put up my handbag mala because it has a little tree on it in which the above ground part of the tree is comparable to the underground part of the tree. And that's what's going on right now with all the trees. It's all happening underground.
I got a Christmas right here.
And I brought a Matero from Argentina. The first Christmas I ever spent in South America, it was 120 degrees. And I was walking around in the blazing sun, trying to think and think about how much I miss snow. But later that night, there is a large tradition of drinking mate in Argentina, which is a time where everyone gathers around and drinks tea. And no matter how cold it is, no matter how hot it is, you can always find people gathered around drinking mate. And that night, as I was walking around Argentina, they usually celebrated actually at midnight, so most people are asleep Christmas morning. But around 6 p.m., I was walking around and just seeing everyone gather as family drinking mate. And that has always stuck in my mind as a memory of where Christmas, even though I miss the snow, it is always a time to gather, to talk. And no matter who it is, be it friends, family, or family that you find along the way, it's always stuck in my memory of those times where, even though I may have missed home in the snow, I always knew I could find people to gather around and just have fun.
I just got a little jar of snow. I mean, it's a jar of water now. But I just think it's kind of nice because it's like, I mean, we're going to have longer days now. Like the shortest day was yesterday, right? It was yesterday. So it's like the snow is melting. We're going to get more snow. But like we have longer days now. The days are just going to keep getting longer. So I like that.
I forgot to bring my little ski man, but I do have my hat.
Talk to the mic.
And,
Talk to the mic.
and I love the snow because it allows you on skis to go places where you cannot go, even in the summer, with the grasses and the marshes, etc. So skiing and snow is a great time in the winter. And most of your heat is lost through your head, I think greater than 80%, something like that. So we're at. And the largest reservoir in the world is snow. Everyone knows that. Thanks.
When I rushed out the door, I forgot to grab the wreath, the Advent wreath that we had. And we usually light the 4 candles on solstice night during dinner. So that is our tradition.
Well, to dedicate our altar, I'd like to ask you to join in our responsive reading, number 663, in the back of your hymnal. If you find that. Called One Small Face, number 663. The people's response is in italic. With mounds of greenery, the brightest ornaments, we bring high summer to our rooms as if despite the somberness of winter come.
In time of want, when life is rolling up against the next uncertain strain, we celebrate in the end of our
creatures bend to rules, even the stars constrained.
There is a blessed madness in the need to go against the grain of hope.
We make a holiday, the rituals varied as the hopes of humanity.
The reasons as obscure as the ancient solar festivals, as clear as joy among small things.
I'll invite you now to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, number 42, Morning So Fair to See.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning I will share a winter solstice story from the Waldorf School of Baltimore. Once upon a time, on a frosty December night, a group of little fairies huddled in their home deep under the roots of a giant oak tree. They were safe and warm. Outside, the wind blew cold and snow covered the ground. I saw the Sun King today, the fairy named Rose said. He looked so old and tired as he walked off through the forest. The great oak said he's dying, answered her sister Daffodil. Dying? Well, what will we do now? Little Zinnia started to cry. If the Sun King dies, our plant friends will not grow, the birds will not come and sing again, and everything will be winter forever. Rose and Daffodil tried to comfort their sister, but they were all very sad. As they huddled together, there was a knock on the tiny door of the great oak tree. "Hello, fairies!" called out a loud voice. "Why are you hiding instead of joining the forest in our solstice celebration?" Rose opened the door, and a little gnome pushed inside. He shook the glistening snowflakes off his coat and hat. "We're too sad to celebrate," Daffodil said, wiping her eyes. "The Sun King is dying, haven't you heard?" "The Sun King is dead," Brother Gnome said, with his round, dark eyes sparkling with laughter. "Now hurry, or we will be late for the celebration." "How can you be happy and laughing?" Rose frowned at the gnome. If the Sun King is dead, it will be winter always. We'll never see the sun again. Oh, little child fairies. The gnome reached for Rose's hand and pulled her to her feet. There is a secret to the winter solstice. The three fairies looked at him in surprise. Secret? They all said. What secret? Come and see, come and see. Brother Gnome danced and jigged around the room. Hurry, hurry, don't be slow. To the ancient oak grove, together we shall go. And he danced out of the door and disappeared. What did Brother Gnome mean? Rose asked as she gathered up her coat. I don't know. Perhaps if we go, we will see what Brother Gnome was talking about, answered Zinnia as she pulled on her hat. The fairies left their warm home and trudged off through the snow toward the ancient oak grove. It was a dark and freezing cold night. They flew through icy wind until they came across their friend the fox. Where are you going, fairies? Fox asked. To the ancient grove, they answered, shivering. Climb on my back. Warm yourselves in my fur. I will take you there swiftly. The fox knelt down so the fairies could climb up. Then he raced off through the dark. Listen, Zinnia said as they neared the grove of ancient trees. Someone is singing happy songs. A lot of someones are singing happy songs. The beautiful music carried over the cold, still, moonlit air. It was the most beautiful music the sisters had ever heard. The fox carried the little fairies right through a spiral of trees, right to the center of the grove, and then knelt down. Why, the whole forest must be here, said the little fairies, as they slid to the snow-covered ground. They're all smiling and happy, said Rose, as she looked around at all the woodland creatures. The little fairies moved closer and closer until their eyes lay on what was in the very center of the grove. A baby, the fairies cried. A brand new little baby. Look how he glows. He is the newborn Sun King, said the fox with a smile. But Brother Gnome said the Sun King is dead, the fairies answered. How can this little baby be the Sun King? That is the great secret of the winter solstice. Every year, the Sun King must come to the ancient grove during the darkest days of winter, where he dies and receives new life again. The fairies laughed. They were so happy. The winter would come to an end after all. The fairies sang to the baby Sun King songs of coming spring, the sweet-smelling flowers, the bumbling bees, and all the secrets of the forest during the long days of summer, when all the creatures within the grove began to sing with them. The fox took them back to their snug home under the roots of the giant oak tree, where they dreamed wonderful dreams, waiting for the warmth of spring and the fun they would have with the little Sun King. We will now sing out our children. As we leave this friendly place, Lord, to every face, may the kindness which we learn light our hearts till we return.
This is a special time in our congregation where each of us has an opportunity to share major events in our lives, our joys, our concerns, and our sorrows, so we can all be uplifted by the UU community. As I read these that were given to us, the minister will light a candle. From Cameron Cook, a concern. My in-laws recently lost their business they had owned for 14 years. They are trying to sell their house and look for a new job. Please keep them in your thoughts. From Karen Schaefer, a joy. Our son, Merrick, from Washington, D.C., is coming for a week's visit. By Christmas, hopefully, we'll have enough snow for some cross-country skiing. From Molly, a joy. Lee Elliott Bergerhoff arrived on Friday evening after a fairly short labor. Mom and baby are home as of yesterday evening.
Nice.
A joy from Anonymous. Solstice, we have light today. A sorrow from Victoria. Her dog Honey's hips are weakening. She has no idea how much longer Honey will be in her life. And lastly, a joy from Victoria. Messiah was performed last night with the IF Symphony plus 4 opera singers, and the chorus was spectacular. We light one more candle for all the sorrows, concerns, and joys we hold in our hearts and are not yet ready to share at this time. No, we lift up our love for you when we are in this together. Oh, is there one online?
Yeah, actually, it's just one of my own. I didn't get a chance to add it to the pile there.
Okay.
It's a joy, and I just said that all my family, all my immediate family, will spend Christmas warm, safe, and well fed.
A joy from Vic that all his family is spending Christmas warm, happy, warm and safe. Thank you.
Our reading this morning is the poem Snowy Night by Mary Oliver. Last night, an owl in the blue dark tossed an indeterminate number of carefully shaped sounds into the world in which, a quarter of a mile away, I happened to be standing. I couldn't tell which one it was, the bard or the great horned ship of the air. It was that distant. But anyway, aren't there moments that are better than knowing something and sweeter? Snow was falling, so much like stars filling the dark trees that one could easily imagine its reason for being was nothing more than prettiness. I suppose if this were someone else's story, they would have insisted on knowing whatever is knowable, would have hurried over the fields to name it, the owl, I mean. But it's mine, this poem of the night, and I just stood there listening and holding out my hands to the soft glitter falling through the air. I love this world, but not for its answers. And I wish good luck to the owl, whatever its name. And I wish great welcome to the snow, whatever its severe and comfortless and beautiful meaning. An offering to support the mission of this church will now be given and gratefully received. In recent years, it is common to hear people complain about the commercialization of the holiday season, and some people even become apoplectic when they hear season's greetings or happy holidays instead of Merry Christmas, as if this was an affront to the one true American holiday, Christmas, rather than simply acknowledging the many different holidays that our diverse society celebrates at this time of year. Put the Christ back in Christmas is also a familiar refrain, and though their reason for saying this is often more exclusionary than motivated by any sense of piety, I find myself somewhat in agreement. This should be a time for spiritual reflection and not just an epic display of consumerism. So yes, put the Christ back in Christmas. But while we're at it, let's also put the Saturn back in Saturnalia and the soul back in solstice. We need spirit-filled holiday rituals, traditions, and merrymaking, no matter what our religion or lack thereof. We need festive meals shared with family and friends, or at least a quiet time with our most beloveds. And while our culture's more familiar holidays at this time of year are centered on a mythical story of the birth of a Savior or the miracle of consecrated oil that burned longer than expected, the natural solar holiday of the winter solstice is rooted in demonstrable fact. In the Northern Hemisphere, this is the turning point of the year when the night is at its maximum and the daylight is at its minimum. And every day from now until the summer solstice in June will get a little longer. And for warm-blooded animals like us, this is as good a reason to celebrate as any. So let us rejoice. From our human perspective, if you're looking for a candidate for God, the sun is a pretty good choice. It is understandable that so many cultures have revered the sun in one form or another, including the Roman god Sol Invictus, the invincible sun. We would not exist without the light and heat of the sun, nor would any of the plants and animals we depend on for life. Every second of every day, the earth is bombarded with about 175,000 terajoules of energy from the sun, which is about the equivalent of exploding 2,750 15-kiloton atomic bombs every second. And if our Mother Earth were not revolving around our sun at the distance she is, what has been called the Goldilocks zone, not too close and hot or not too far away and cold, our planet would not be suitable for life as we know it. We would have no liquid water or the breathable atmosphere that has evolved within our moderate temperature range, things we largely take for granted. Many ancient peoples recognize this better than we do, and they routinely gave thanks for the gifts of the earth and the sun we receive. The 4 annual natural solar milestones, the winter and summer solstice and the fall and spring equinox, were easy to observe and predict, and so they became celebrated as sacred holidays in many cultures. There are still lots of solstice time holidays celebrated around the world, and some have very ancient roots. In Iran, for example, the Zoroastrian minority still celebrates the winter solstice by burning fires, enjoying festive foods, and reading poetry, sometimes remaining awake all night to celebrate the dawn. They have done this for at least 5,000 years, dating back to a pre-Zoroastrian festival called Shab-e-Yalda, which means night of birth. And in China, the winter solstice is called Dongzhi, which means winter arrives. It is believed to be based on an ancient harvest festival, but in modern times it has become a time for family gatherings to celebrate the previous year and eat special rice balls and dumplings. A similar festival is called Toji, is celebrated in Japan, marking the harvest with bonfires on Mount Fuji and at other places. Among Native Americans, the winter solstice was a time for storytelling, dancing, and rituals to ensure survival in the cold months to come. It was an especially important religious holiday for the Zuni and Hopi peoples of the Southwest, who designated a sun priest known as Pekwin for the Zuni, who would watch for the exact moment of dawn and announce the rebirth of the sun. At that moment, the celebration would begin with dancing, fires, and feasting for the next 4 days. Among Mesoamerican and South American indigenous tribes, it was also an important occasion, though below the equator, the winter solstice would be celebrated in June. It is important not to ignore our northern hemisphere bias and remember that for half the world, the winter and summer solstices are reversed compared to our own. In Western culture, Christmas has become the major winter holiday, but of course, this is no accident. In ancient Rome, early Christian converts still enjoyed the popular pagan holiday of Saturnalia, much to the consternation of some bishops. And so, faced with the inevitability of the festive celebrations, they decided to repurpose the pagan holiday to celebrate the birth of Jesus, even if the timing made no sense according to the gospel accounts. Saturnalia was a 7-day celebration of the Roman god Saturn, and as it is described on Wikipedia, the holiday was celebrated with a sacrifice at the Temple of Saturn in the Roman Forum, and a public banquet followed by private gift-giving, continual partying, and a carnival atmosphere that overturned Roman social norms. Gambling was permitted, and masters provided table service for their slaves, as it was seen as a time of liberty for both slaves and freedmen alike. A common custom was the election of a king of the Saturnalia, who gave orders to people which were followed and presided over merrymaking. The gifts exchanged were usually gag gifts, or small figurines made of wax or pottery known as sigularia. It is easy to see why this annual festival was so popular, especially among the slaves and lower classes. The Roman poet Catullus described Saturnalia as the best of days. It sounds a lot like the kind of raucous festival that Christmas had become in Renaissance England, which earned the disdain of the Puritans. When the Puritans immigrated to America, celebrating Christmas was declared illegal in the Puritan colonies like Massachusetts until 1681. And it was not widely celebrated until the mid-1800s. New England Unitarians were instrumental in reinventing many of the Christmas holiday traditions we see today, but that is a topic for a different time. Almost all religious rituals and traditions are evolutionary in nature, adapting and reimagining earlier spiritual expressions, and so it is with the symbols and rituals of solstice. From Northern Europe, we've inherited the practice of decorating homes with mistletoe, evergreen boughs, and trees during the winter season. And of course, all of these have been incorporated into Christmas as well. And in Scandinavia, the burning of a Yule log is still celebrated by some. The original Yule logs were enormous and sometimes burned for 12 days. And the Yule feast would last and be celebrated until the Yule log burned out. That is quite a party. It is a shame that the frenzied modern society makes such lengthy celebrations nearly impossible for most of us to imagine. I can only imagine how meaningful the experience might have been. Today, few of us could commit to a Yule feast like this, but we can still find meaningful ways to celebrate the solstice and our appreciation for the life-giving energy of the sun. Our celebration this morning is a good example. We constructed an altar for the occasion, read poetry, sang songs, and shared other elements of worship together. And in our homes, we decorate for the holiday season with greenery and in other ways that our ancient ancestors would still recognize. If we take the time to be more mindful of the gifts of the sun over the next few days, that can make the season even more meaningful. Just stepping outside for a few minutes when the sun is shining in winter can be a blessed experience. And if the timing is right, stopping for a moment of silent reflection or prayer of thanksgiving at the solstice could be a nice and easy ritual. The exact time of the astronomical winter solstice in the northern hemisphere marks the moment when the sun's relative position to the Earth's axis reaches its southernmost point. And this year it happened to be yesterday morning at 2:21 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Next year, this is on Sunday, December 21st at 8:02 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So maybe we can do something even more special to mark the occasion. I like this idea of a marriage of religion and science with the natural solar holidays. I think it could be the next step in the evolution of religion, and it is really exciting when a holiday as ancient as the solstice can be rediscovered in contemporary terms that are both meaningful and intellectually tenable. Our pre-scientific ancestors were keen observers of the heavens and could often predict the solar milestones as accurately as we can. But we have the advantage of modern astronomy and cosmology to understand what is going on. And though we may not imagine the sun to be as divine as they once did, we can learn to re-sacralize the sun in our own way. Marty and I don't have a fireplace where we live now, but when we did, we often selected a nice large oak log for our Yule log to burn on the solstice. Watching the fire slowly consume the log is a good time to reflect on the fact that the energy released by the flames was once sunlight that was chemically transformed through earth and water into the tissues of the tree. And on a few occasions, we found ourselves camping in the woods during the winter holidays. It was both festive and practical to enjoy a nice roaring campfire. I haven't done this for a number of years, and I probably wouldn't enjoy winter camping these days as much as I used to, but there is something magical about sleeping in a tent on a cold, quiet winter night if you have the right gear. The hard part is crawling out of the warm sleeping bag. Winter is cold, but the days are often clear with brilliant sunshine. Just the other day I learned a new English word that has become obsolete over the last few centuries, but I think it is a word we should recover: apricity. That's apricity. The word apricity is a noun that describes the warmth of the sun in winter. What a wonderful and unique word. I think a great way to celebrate the solstice this year would be to use apricity as often as possible and educate your friends and family, especially when you're outside enjoying the apricity of a sunny winter's day. Another unusual event this year that will occur on Tuesday, Christmas Eve, that you might find festive and fascinating as I do, is that by coincidence, on Christmas Eve, the Parker Solar Probe, which was launched in 2018, will journey closer to the outer surface of the sun than any previous probe. It is planned to reach within 3.8 million miles of the center of the sun, which may sound like a safe distance, but it will likely encounter temperatures over 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Its heat shielding is predicted to withstand up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, but since we have never launched a probe this close to the sun, it may just melt. The surface temperature of the sun is over 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Hopefully the Parker Solar Probe will survive and send us lots of new data about the sun. So if you think about it this week, say a prayer or raise a toast to the Parker Solar Probe on its amazing journey to greet Sol Invictus. So friends, I wish you all a happy solstice, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and happy holidays, whatever tradition you celebrate. Enjoy the holidays as best you can, and remember that all sorts of feelings can wash over you in this season. Winter reminds us to slow down and rest, and many of us feel just the opposite as we welcome family visitors or travel. Be gentle with yourselves, and remember that starting today, each day will be a little longer, and spring will be here again before we know it. Meanwhile, get outside and frolic in the snow and enjoy some apricity if you can. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit once again and join in singing our closing hymn, number 235, Deck the Hall with Boughs of Holly. Our closing words are the poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound is the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
We will now extinguish our chalice with the following words. If you wish, join me in reciting the reading.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Oh, this is beautiful.